All right, and we are back. 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 Welcome. All right, and we are back. And today we're back with another reaction video by the amazing creator Adam Something. And before we get into that, I do want to say happy holidays to you and to yours. Merry Christmas. If you're watching this after Christmas, happy Kwanzaa. If you're watching this next year and it's also December, then, happy Hanukkah. If Hanukkah hasn't ended, a happy Hanukkah. I don't remember if it ended or not. Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you're watching this after Christmas, happy belated. And again, happy Kwanzaa. So I'm trying to make sure everybody's there. If you celebrate any other holidays during December, happy holidays to you. Let me know if anybody knows of any other holidays or anything in December that I just don't know about, because I only know about 3, because that's just who I am. I'm ignorant to the facts, guys. I don't know. Please help me alleviate this ignorance that I have about other holidays in December. Throw them out there. Put them in the comments. But yeah, guys, today we're watching a video by Adam Something. This one is Why Your Job Feels Meaningless. It's going to be a good one. I feel like a lot of people, especially during these holidays, may have these jobs that they don't really feel a passion for. And we're going to find out why. We're going to figure out why you feel like your job possibly feels meaningless to you. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out Adam Something. I'm sure most of you have already heard of him because he's an amazing creator. But if you haven't, check him out. Link will be below in the description. Subscribe. Comment on his videos, tell him that I sent you, see if he'll subscribe back to me. We'll form this whole YouTube commenter subscriber relationship. It'll be really cool. He'll join along. He'll be like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best reaction videos I've ever seen to any of my stuff. And I'll be like, of course it is, because I made it. So guys, with that being said, make sure you also subscribe to me. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Because if you don't, and here's the realistic part. If you don't like, comment, and more importantly, subscribe, YouTube will come through that door right over there. And they will. Adam Something, Why Jobs Feel Meaningless.
Before YouTube, I used to be an office worker. The office itself was inside a beautiful, old but renovated building in the center of Prague. The facilities were modern, and I had access to amenities such as free coffee, a relaxation area, table football, and even a console corner. The team was great, a very informal, friendly, laid-back group of mostly foreigners. The salary was great, higher than the national average due to an added premium for my language skills. I was doing business-level IT support stuff, but if something was wrong with a system for a client, I had to go fix it for them or walk them through how they can do it themselves.
Hey, so guys, I also work in IT. It's actually really nice. The office he described is very similar to the office we had before all of the madness happened in the year 2020. My office was really nice. I used to really like going in. It was filled with a bunch of different people. We do like tech support for different companies. So they call in. It's like mostly just call in for tech support whenever they need it for different, people who get corporate phones and everything like that. We help them out. So going into the office was not like the worst experience in the world. As far as all the jobs I had, it's probably one of the better offices. Now, after the incidents of 2020, we did start working remotely. So a lot of the stuff we do now still happens, but it's a lot more on the solo end of it now. So we do still have the office available, but It doesn't have all the cool stuff in it anymore. The ping pong tables, all the gaming corner. You know, we had a console in there we could just play on our lunch breaks. Oh my gosh, that was so sweet. Uh, but yeah, I guess technically I do still have a console now that I can play on my lunch break, but it doesn't hit the same. You know, when your coworkers are watching you do something good. I don't know. I miss those days.
The work itself was
Somewhat. I actually do like working from home because here's the thing about me. I do actually like being like I enjoy my own, my own presence. Being by myself or like not having to go into work every day and not being around a bunch of people every day is not the worst thing in the world for me. And some people be like, "Oh, no, just get out." No, no, no. Sometimes you do enjoy the surroundings that you built for yourself. It's not, it's actually pretty nice.
okay. Not too difficult, not too monotone, you had to use your head and your language skills a lot. It really felt like I had everything when it came to my workplace. The ultimate job where I would be set for life. And yet, after a year or so, I was miserable, depressed. I was dragging myself to work every morning and counting down the hours until I was free. Over time, my work became this excruciating waiting room I had to waste my time in for 8 hours a day so I could get the money, so I could do what I actually wanted on my scant few holidays. When I wasn't at work during weekends or on a vacation, I had little rest. My work loomed over me like the sword of Damocles, getting closer every day, and then, before I knew it, I was back in the hamster wheel, waiting for the next day off to come. I kept thinking about this whole situation. What is wrong with me? Am I just lazy? Am I
No, honestly, and here's the thing, guys. I believe this may happen to everybody with every job. The job you love gets tiring. The jobs you hate gets tiring even quicker. Everyone, like, even the things you do, like YouTube, for example, even YouTube gets super stressful and like to the point where you're just like, I don't want to do this right now. Like if you ever create content and then have to edit your own videos, go through all the things of like making sure you're putting out decent content, that takes work. I love these reactions here because they take so much less effort than like a movie reaction. I love doing movie reactions, but the amount of effort that you have to put into doing a movie reaction versus like one of these reactions is like it's not very comparable. But at the same time, even doing like the more simple things where you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna take this in. There's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be like 30 minutes of editing, or I'm sorry, it's not gonna be like 4 hours or 2 days of editing. It's just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is only gonna be maybe like a 1 hour of editing versus the literal, I don't know, it would probably take 2-3 days to edit a good movie reaction. And then even after that, you're still hoping that people would actually check it out. So yeah, even the jobs you love can get very stressful.
Going to end up as some loser, flunking from workplace to workplace till retirement? But then, something interesting happened. I was invited to friends in the deep, deep Czech countryside. We spent a few days in a centuries-old farmhouse, that typical one with the inner courtyard and multiple parts to live in. It was winter, and the only means of heating was an old wood-fired ceramic furnace, sort of like this one. My friends had to leave for a few hours, and I was left alone. Outside was like -10°C, and it was getting cold inside too. The fire was out. I wanted to restart it, but
what's that, like 20 degrees Fahrenheit? It's not bad.
There was no firewood, so I went out to the courtyard. There was no firewood either, but there were some stumps that my friends had cut from logs with a chainsaw. So I took an axe and cut up some stumps for firewood. After half an hour, I had a whole pile of firewood. I brought some inside, and after some trial and error, I'd managed to start the fire inside the furnace. When that fire started burning, I just kept staring at it. I could not take my eyes off it, and the heat it started to give off felt strangely pleasant. I mean, of course, warmth is pleasant in a cold room, but this was something else, something much stronger.
He felt accomplished. Is that it? Did he just feel like he actually accomplished something that like took a different part of himself to accomplish? If you're in the IT, doing IT stuff all day, you probably would feel a little extra accomplished when you do some like physical or manual labor. And you actually complete the task that you set out to do that involves manual labor. I'm sure that is a different feeling of accomplishment. But also, I'm sure if you are a person who does like, labor intensive jobs all day and maybe you solve a technical issue, you may feel an extra sense of accomplishment. You're a construction worker and you've been like lifting stuff and like moving stuff all day, putting things in places. And then all of a sudden you like freaking fix somebody's computer issue. You probably would feel like an extra sense of accomplishment. But let's see what it says.
And then, when my friends came back and thanked me for making the fire, and when I saw them sitting around the furnace that I heated up, I was in a state of euphoria. But why? Why did this simple act give me so much fulfillment while my office job didn't? At work, I was doing far more important things than just cutting up some wood and starting a fire. And yet, the office was depressing, while starting that stupid little fire gave me an uncanny amount of joy. So clearly, I was capable of finding happiness in work. I wasn't a lost cause after all. The second half of my revelation came when I bought a small apartment on a mortgage, putting my savings into a down payment. Not in Prague, of course, I wish. The apartment was in a very bad state and needed full renovation, which I did by myself. I took a week off and spent most of it in the apartment doing the renovation. Once I started, I literally could not stop. I just kept working, forgetting to eat even. I got hypoglycemia multiple times. That's when your blood sugar gets so low that your hands and feet start to shake. At that point I would stop and eat, but then I was right back at what I was doing. I worked till midnight until I was so physically exhausted I had to sleep. But then my eyes sprung open at 6 a.m. on their own, no alarm needed. And after a quick breakfast, I went right back into work once more. 18 hours of hard work every day, and I was loving every second of it. I wasn't even tired. In fact, I was more energetic than ever before. So clearly, I wasn't lazy at all. That's when I realized what the problem was with my office job, what my problem was with it. It's not that I preferred physical work over intellectual work. I find most physical work repetitive and boring. When my parents ordered firewood for the winter and a mountain of it was plopped down on our driveway and I had to haul all that inside, I hated every goddamn second of it. No, the real difference between my office job and me cutting wood to make a fire or renovating an apartment is that the latter two had meaning to me. I was working towards something I cared about, and in the furnace example, additionally 4 people I cared about. I was glad to make the fire because I would be warm afterwards, and my friends too, and they.
So I definitely understand his point, and I agree with this. I feel like it's a mixture. Again, it definitely had doing things that have meaning to you are like is an extra motivator to getting things accomplished. Like if it really means something to you, you're gonna try to get it accomplished. But at the same time, I do also still feel like just the shift in what you're doing, it like even if you're doing something you love, if you do it every single day, it gets repetitive. Everything in life can get repetitive and boring. Even the things you enjoy. Let's say you love playing video games. Let's say Elden Ring, your favorite game. So many things to do in Elden Ring. You can literally go anywhere, do pretty much anything. You look at a place, you can get there. You see a weapon, you can use it. You can play the game for hours and hours and hours, thousands and thousands of hours. You may get bored after 500 hours and be like, you know what? I just need to play something else for like 5 minutes or like read a book or do something else. And you will probably feel a sense of like, oh my God, this is actually pretty cool too. Like this is maybe not euphoria, but maybe you'll get into maybe your passion for it will grow, and then you'll come back to, the Elden Ring and you'll still feel accomplished there and you'll still feel that passion. But when you just boggle things down too much, when you're just like so into it, sometimes you lose the vision and you lose the passion for it. It's not always easy to maintain that level of, enthusiasm and passion for things. Again, even if you genuinely love them and care about them, it can just break that point sometimes. Jobs are stressful. If they weren't stressful, they wouldn't pay you money.
Would also appreciate the work I did. I was glad to be toiling for 18 hours a day in a dingy apartment because I was working for myself and I was creating something I could see and relate to afterwards. I could show it off, I could see it, enjoy it, hell, even brag about it. Whatever the case may be, the results of my work would stand there as a monument to the effort I've put into the apartment. By contrast, at my office job, no one really gave a shit about my work. Not my managers, who only looked at the performance graphs for each employee at the end of the month. Not our clients, who are just disembodied voices on the phone or lines of text on his screen who, once the problem was fixed, disappeared without a trace.
That's true. Like, customers don't care, but I will say managers also are a very important part of this. Like, management and like supervisors, things like that, they are so important to like keeping the morale in a place like that going, and they're very underappreciated. Like, when you have a good manager, you will realize the difference and you'll be like, wow. Just every once in a while, your managers just randomly hit you up being like, hey, thank you. You know, I know we give you a lot of things to do, but I appreciate that you are always able to get them done. Those things go very far. Like, for me personally, when my manager randomly does something nice for me, randomly it's like, hey, I appreciate you. Hey, thank you. You know, you are, you know, we look for you. We're, you know, you're a great worker, all these things. Like, those things go a lot further sometimes than just even just like, oh, hey, we're throwing a pizza party for the office. Like, individual, like, appreciation. Like, when you know that you individually are being appreciated and not just like, oh, we appreciate having workers and having people to do the things we want them to do. That's one thing. But a person coming up to you individually, you over there, Billy, you, Tommy, you, Chucky, when they tell you that you're doing great, it feels good. And it gives you that extra bit of motivation that maybe you didn't have, you know, to get through that Wednesday, you know, get through that Tuesday, make it to Friday. You know, it helps out. And it helps you be like, you know what? My other jobs didn't do that. And this is why I like this one.
The boss of the company didn't give a shit either, paying me the same regardless of what I was doing or how I was doing it. I was just showing up every day, climbing into the hamster wheel, spinning it for 8 hours a day, for which at the end of the month I would see the number on my bank account go up slightly. And the worst part was, my position only existed because the company didn't bother to overhaul their badly put together system. Instead of doing that, they just hired 20 more people to sort out the ensuing problems. After a year,
Wow.
I personally knew at least a dozen ways to improve the system, which would have eliminated a double-digit percentage of clients' problems and much of our workload. But if I did submit those suggestions, first, let's face it, my salary would have stayed the same, and second, I would have been at risk of getting fired because by improving the system, I would have made my position unnecessary. Oh, by the way, we were doing like 2 hours of actual work every day and spent the remaining 6 hours secretly procrastinating. But nobody cared because managers gained more funding and influence the more people were on their teams, and the owner couldn't personally check every single level of the company for redundancies or inefficiencies. Just like how a king cannot personally inspect each of his lord's castles to see if they're spending their allowance properly.
Oh my gosh, this an ad? Is this an ad break, guys? I have a feeling this is going to be an ad break. Let's see.
As a result, a lot of funds will be wasted, and no one will care. The lords don't care because they'll get the money either way as long as things look fine from a distance. And the serfs don't care because it's not their money, not their castle, and not their kingdom. And their compensation will not change anyway. Monarchies are inherently inefficient, corrupt, and wasteful institutions. So why do we let our workplaces operate like them? So how...
Oh crap, this wasn't an ad. Hey, shout outs to Adam something. This is normally the part where people would throw in some type of random ad and be like,
you know what else isn't like this? This random mobile game where you get to be the king and you get to have the control over the things and you can micromanage.
I swear to you guys, I thought that's where he was going with this.
How could my office job been more meaningful to me? What could have made me care about the work I was doing? Well, to put it simply, if I had a real stake in the company. If I felt like I was partaking in something I was meaningfully involved in. If I wasn't just some random person showing up to spin someone else's hamster wheel for 8 hours a day. If we, the employees, had a say in how the company was run. If the company was a truly common project, where we all share both successes and failures, financial or otherwise. Imagine if workers could vote to allocate part of the extra profit for salary bonuses, earmarking the rest for growing the company. If employees could point out inefficiencies and potential improvements during meetings without the fear of becoming redundant and getting fired. And once things are improved and made more efficient, instead of blanket firing redundant employees as it very often happens, employees could decide what else to do with all these newly freed up resources.
I will say these are all great ideas. But also counterpoint, I do feel like you just didn't have a job that you liked. You know, I mean, you may have enjoyed what you did, but I think you may have just not worked for the best company in the world. Like, being realistic with you, like some of these things, like you may, I'm going back here because some of these things are like, okay, the job the job meaningfully involving employees. Like a lot of jobs do ask employees about things, and like having a real stake in the company, you know, I guess depending on what you do and your level of like importance in the company, like let's say you do, like you said, he does tech support. You do have a real stake in the company as far as like what you do directly affects the company. If that first level of tech support is noticeably bad, your company will lose money. That's I feel like that's having a real stake in the company, not just a faceless replaceable drone. Again, I do feel like that is a like that's something about like asking your company like what type of people are you like they looking for within the company. Like when I say that, I mean like does the company you work for, do they value their employees? Because I feel like that right there is the issue of does the company value its employees? These a lot of these, if the company was a common project, that also kind of implies like do they value their employees? Because if they did value their employees, they would make policies that would make sure that their employees are helped out. They would make sure that they are giving competitive salaries to make sure that these people are not just like coming in here living paycheck to paycheck. They'd actually fight for their employees. Managements, let's say managers used to be employees, they'd have more incentive to fight for employees. Again, this is why I like when companies hire from within. And also when you hire from within, you probably will feel like, it's more of a common place and people are more connected because the person next to you may be the manager in a couple of years and they'll share the same sentiments going forward. These are things that'll all help out. And this, if employees had say in management, again, that kind of goes with it because if employees become managers, if you're hired from within and your first level, your level one employees can move all the way up to becoming managers, and eventually people within eventually could be a CEO. If you have that type of company in place, then employees may feel more like, hey, we do have a little bit of say here. I can talk to my managers. I can talk to the company. Like, do you have open door policies? Can you go and send an email or talk to the person who owns the company or the highest up person possible? Like, you should be able to do that in like every company. It shouldn't be like oh man, you got to go through like 30 people to talk to one person. And then you do feel faceless and nameless and like nobody cares. Again, if you have managers who actually make you feel like you are like they care about you, you're not going to feel just like a faceless replaceable drone. If you work for a company that actually gives you individualized, like, I appreciate what you're doing, you probably won't feel that way.
Where we all share both successes and failures, financial or otherwise. Imagine if workers could vote to allocate part of the extra profit for salary bonuses, earmarking the rest for growing the company. If employees could point...
Now, I do enjoy that one, like allocating money for salary. That is nice. Again, I don't know though. I feel like maybe if you have people who like just used to be employees who then become like working in the the financial part of your company, that may also help. It may give them another incentive to be like, what, I feel like people should probably get paid more. If you were someone who used to be a level one and you got that like again just base level salary or whatever your company is, and then you move up and eventually you become somebody who works in the financial department, if that was your goal or that's your dream, so you're trying to do that, then again, I feel like you'd probably have more incentive to make sure that all the other employees are paid equally. And if you see something where you can reallocate money and funds to go to employees, you'd probably speak with the management about that and be like, hey, this is how much they usually make. This is how much we're bringing in. This is how much we can afford to go moving forward and still have a profit for the company. Because again, these are allocations of extra profit. Companies still got to make money. Companies still have to go through that. And because of capitalism, they are incentivized to make more money every year, which already kind of defeats this whole point here. Really, this is capitalism, because if you're incentivized to make more profits for the company, reallocating those extra profits to only make it so you make slightly less profits, but the employees make more, that kind of goes against like the basics of capitalism, and what companies are striving for now. In America, as far as that's what I can speak to. Companies are incentivized to make more and more money every year. Doing something like this may cause a company to, while they will make more money, they won't show as high profits every year, because they're giving it back to the employees. Which, if you, let's say, have, like, depending on what company you work for, if you got a board full of people at the top, they may not approve of that.
Point out inefficiencies and potential improvements during meetings without the fear of becoming redundant and getting fired. And once things are improved and made more efficient, instead of blanket firing redundant employees, as it very often happens, employees could decide what else to do with all these newly freed up resources. During times of crisis, employees could collectively decide to lower their salaries across the board temporarily to give the company budget some breathing room so they won't have to fire anyone. Once the
Ooh, okay. So I don't Okay, so you want people to be like, you know what, we should reallocate the funds here. Also, if I find out that my job is redundant, I should like let them know, but they shouldn't fire me, because I will take a salary cut for the company if need be. I don't know. I don't know if these things can work in conjunction with each other, to be honest. It sounds nice, and then I'm just thinking realistically how many people I can think of who, even after receiving a bonus or like a salary increase, would then decide, you know what, in order to keep my job and to make sure that other employees that I care about don't get fired, I'll take a 25% salary cut. I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, I'm sure some other people may disagree and be like, no, bro. Again, this is me.
Crisis is over, the company will have retained its experienced employees instead of having to do the hiring and training all over again. By the way,
now what if the employees aren't able to like find a different like option for themselves? Like, let's say that like they do figure out that their job is redundant, and they do figure out like, here's a way to fix it. And then at the end of the day, the company genuinely doesn't need this many employees. Like, what do you do in that situation where like the salary cut is temporary? So let's say after the, quote unquote crisis is over, they genuinely don't need this many employees. Like, what do you do in that situation where you're in this situation, you still don't want to fire them, but you just have too many people on salary? Do you just ask more? Do you ask people to just take less money, but also like, what do you, again, if you don't have anything for them to do, what do you do with them? Do you like train them on something different? Do you like, hey, let's branch out the company and do like cover something that we weren't covering before, and then have those people take care of it? Like that I would say that would be my question.
When the COVID crisis started, my boss axed an entire department immediately, putting 50 people out on the street. Employees having a say in how the company is run might sound strange or scary, I understand, but think about it. Employees aren't these lowly, brainless serfs there to be guided by the genius of the business owner. Absolutely not. In fact, often it's the employees who are desperately trying to keep things afloat in spite of the tsunami of idiotic ideas from the owner. A great example of this is Elon Musk, who has a group of handlers at Tesla whose sole job is to talk him out of his idiotic ideas before he could do any harm with them. The Tesla Cybertruck is a perfect example, one of Musk's idiotic ideas that managed to slip past the handlers, and it's a complete disaster, what a surprise. The thing is, the bigger a company gets, the harder it becomes for one single person to oversee and control it. Increasingly, it's the employees on the floor, in the trenches, who know what's going on within, who have the new ideas, think of innovations, and experience problems and inefficiencies firsthand. Employees have micro-level insight into the company that the owner will never have. Companies run on their employees, not their bosses. If the boss doesn't come in on Monday morning, business goes on as usual. If the employees don't come in on Monday morning, there is no business. Why then aren't the employees members of the company board, for example? Why is it only financial investors? Investors don't know how the company actually operates, unlike employees. They only see charts and numbers prepared by managers, and they only care about the line going up. If it doesn't go up, oh well, they'll cut their losses and move on to a different company, a different boardroom. Employees, on the other hand, want to see their livelihoods survive. If their workplace goes down, they won't be in a business lounge contemplating where to invest next over a cocktail.
I will say this feels a little bit more like a simplified view of businesses and corporate board, like what the actual board consists of. And also, like, again, managers actually play a huge role in what he's talking about right now. He's literally describing, like, the person he's describing that would be like out there every day, making sure that like the day-to-day things are like managed and they like know all the day-to-day things and can also talk to the higher ups and the people who are on the board and stuff like that. Those would be managers. That would be like that middle person who like runs the day to day, but also knows the ins and outs of the company that the normal employee may not be privy to. You know, there's things that normal employees just don't know about the company. And it's not just like, oh yeah, if you just shouldn't know. Sometimes it's just like, hey, this information doesn't pertain to you. And knowing about it wouldn't affect you, and it wouldn't help you, and it wouldn't be negative. It would just not benefit anybody. It would just be telling you information for no reason. And sometimes you just need to have the manager know that information. And then, you know, I don't know. Maybe he's right. Maybe all employees should just be on the board for every company. I personally, I don't know if that's a great idea. You know, maybe if you just have like a smaller company with like less than 1,000 people or less than 500 people, that would work. But I feel like, again, like you just said, once you start getting to the point where you get like thousands of people in your company and they're all like board members and stuff, and they all just have all these different opinions on things, sometimes you actually do need to like manage and have a set number of people to make sure that everything gets done properly without just so much confusion waiting. Like, how long would it take if every person on the company was on the board and they had to get a decision done? How long would it take for the average decision to be done if it literally had to go across 1,000 people? This isn't going to be like one big chat meeting or anything here. This would be emails getting sent out that everyone has to reply to. How long do you guys think it would take to get things done if everyone in the company had to reply to this email before we get like we can tally up votes to get things done? Like, realistically, how long do you think it would take? For my company, I think it would take a year.
They'll be out on the street, scampering to find a new workplace before they and their families become homeless. Investors put money into the company, sure, but money can be printed. Employees, on the other hand, are putting something far more valuable.
Guys, we cannot just keep printing money. That's not how the economy works. You can't just print money. I think I know what he's saying there. Money is not like, you know, money can be replaced. But guys, you cannot just start printing money out there and be like, oh yeah, well, we can just print $1 billion more and things will work out. That's not how things will work out, guys. History has shown that's not how things will work out.
people and finite into the company. Their lives, 8 hours of it every single day, sometimes more. But yeah, I get it, it's not fair, life's not fair, monarchies are not fair. You're spending your life as a serf, working for a king, only for that king to make a horrible decision which ruins the kingdom and by extension, your livelihood. I get that it sucks, I really do, but you can also move to another kingdom and then hope for the best. Hope that your new king won't be as idiotic. I just don't see an alternative to monarchy. The idea that serfs could run the country is just ludicrous. Look, the king risked a lot to build his country. It's his life's work. It's deeply unfair to suggest that he should not have total control and authority over it. If serfs want to have a say in how the kingdom is run, they could just found their own kingdom. Democracy just can't work in real life. You need a strong, controlling authority above the masses. Imagine if common people could vote on how their country is run. They would run it into the ground almost immediately. Besides, if we implemented this whole democracy thing, what's stopping people from just voting to empty the treasury and distribute it among themselves? The country would cease to exist. This notion of democratic countries is a myth, a fever dream. People couldn't even control their workplaces democratically, so how could we expect them to control their countries democratically? We need dictators, we need kings. The will of the people cannot be trusted. Not now, not ever. Not at the workplace, and certainly not with the country. It's time to grow up and...
Okay, but like, I will say though, the example he's using for democracy, American democracy, would be the equivalent of like the working system that he just put up that says it doesn't work. Like the one that he's making fun of and saying is a monarchy. This is that. Like, I don't know if you like the will of the people. It's a very nice sentiment in America, but like as people, we vote and then it goes into the electors make like these people here would be like the managers and like the CEO or whatever, if you want to call that the president, that would still be the same. Like a lot of things that the people directly want or ask for are not even addressed by these people. And they a lot of times are doing their own thing. And then they're passing laws and we don't always get the vote and say so in those things. Like the American democracy is not the example he should want to use for what the point he's trying to prove.
And stop being blind idealists. Democracy is a myth. Dictatorship is the best we will ever get. Time to get used to it. Now get back on your grind set. Oh, wow, it's quite a somber note to end the video on. I had no idea democracy didn't work. It's a shame there aren't any real-life examples of democratic countries on the planet that are far more powerful and influential than any dictatorship. Because if...
Yeah, so guys, again, these aren't, like, I understand the point that he's trying to make, but this is like this isn't a great example of it. Because again, America, Canada, all these places, like even like all these democratic countries that he's naming, they very much work off like here's the people, here's, let's say law enforcement, here's elected officials, which, yeah, you elect officials, but then you got to break it down into party lines, and then what's the legislation, or like what's the party in your local area like? If you're in a Republican area, there's a great chance that person's going to be Republican no matter what your individualistic views are. And then you go higher up. If you are in a red state, there's a very high chance that the next governor of that red state is going to be a Republican, unless regardless of your specific policies. If you're in a blue state, there's a very high chance that the next person in charge is going to be a Democrat, regardless of your individual views, because that's just how it works. And even in general elections, you elect the president. It's not like the people's direct votes go in and, oh yeah, that's the president now. We have that the whole, like, the college, what do they call that thing? You guys know what I'm talking about. The electoral college. They have their own thing. So, like, This just wasn't the best example, guys.
If we had those, we could then argue that since people can already run their countries democratically and do it relatively well, they could obviously run their workplaces democratically, since workplaces are a step down from countries, both in terms of complexity and importance. It's like telling a person after they ran a marathon that they could never run a half marathon because it's too difficult. What do you mean? They're running whole marathons. Of course they could do a half marathon. Yeah, right. Democratically controlled workplaces are called worker cooperatives, and generally they're pretty great. They are more resilient to crises, provide more long-term and stable employment, and, importantly, you are no longer just a small, replaceable part in a large machine planted in a mass-produced cubicle in a sea of cubicles. You are part of a team, a collective, working towards the same goal.
What's the biggest company that a worker cooperatives, like what is the most amount of people that could work like properly in a worker cooperatives like type of environment? I would love to know that. I feel like I feel like the absolute limit would probably be around 500 to like 1,000 people.
For your own interests, the largest worker cooperative in the world is currently Mondragon Corporation, employing more than 81,000 people. Worker co-ops are...
Okay, 81,000. So, okay. So if they get like 100,000 people, okay. They're close to 100,000. I'll give them that. I thought it was going to be like 1,000, but they got that times 86.
Very much viable and seem to be superior to traditionally owned firms in some very relevant ways. So if you're thinking about starting a business, I recommend you look into worker co-ops and start your business like one. And to the question of, if worker co-ops are so great, how come they aren't everywhere? Consider this. Mercantile capitalism, the precursor to our current modern economic system, could have theoretically existed already under the Roman Empire. But it just didn't. It didn't really get started until the 16th century or so. Sometimes good ideas need time to take root. But thankfully, we now have the internet, allowing those good ideas to spread faster. After we evolved from mercantile capitalism all the way to today's neoliberal capitalism, it's time to take the next step. It's time to graduate to democratic capitalism, also known as super capitalism or capitalism 2.0, a system so much more capitalistic that even workers get to sit on company boards. With that, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you appreciate my content, please consider supporting me on Patreon, and I'll be seeing you next time.
Hey, that was a great video. Shoutouts to Adam Something. Make sure you go check him out. Subscribe, go to his Patreon, give him money, all that good stuff, guys. But yeah, I mean, again, I very much agree with a lot of his points, but I will say I don't think some of those were the best examples, and there are still some downsides even in the options that I feel like he's describing. Again, maybe I'm completely wrong here. I think he took a lot more time to research this when he put out the video than I did to react to it. It is what it is. He may be a little bit more researched in the topic than I am, guys. Wolati. But no, I do feel like he made some extremely great points there. I do have a few, like, if I could interview him, I would have just a couple of questions that I would love to clarify with him, and I'm sure you guys would probably be able to correct me in the comments. Again, I'm ignorant to this. Help me relieve that ignorance by correcting any of my statements in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, hit that unlike button or the dislike button, because, you know, I see that as well. So you can personally tell me that you didn't like it with that button, but also hit the like button. That way both count. Anyway, guys, it's been another great one. Again, as always, I appreciate you. Thank you. I love you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. I love you.